Welcome to Faith Light Stories, where real lives meet the power of faith. These are stories of pain, redemption, and the quiet miracles that happen when we least expect them. If this is your first time here, please like, share, and subscribe to help us spread hope to more hearts in need. Every story here is a light for someone in the dark. Be part of the light, like, share, and subscribe to Faith Light Stories. He had delivered hundreds of babies, held the tiniest hearts in his hands, and brought countless lives back from the edge of death. But that night, when the monitors screamed and the world went silent, Dr. Samuel Hayes realized that all his knowledge, all his skill, all his years of training meant nothing against what was happening before him. His 10-year-old son, Ethan, was lying on the emergency table, pale and still, a small chest that refused to rise. Just an hour earlier, they had been laughing on their way home from Ethan's soccer game. The smell of the grass still clung to Samuel's clothes. Ethan had scored his first goal, and Samuel had promised him ice cream on the way home. The world had been good, ordinary, safe, until a truck came speeding through the intersection, tires screeching, the sound of glass and metal tearing through the night. Samuel's mind replayed that moment endlessly. The flash of headlights, Ethan's small hand reaching out, and then nothing but silence and sirens in the air. He barked orders, intubated, pumped oxygen, tried every protocol he had ever taught his residents. His voice was steady, but his soul was trembling. His colleagues stood frozen, knowing they were watching a man fight, not for a patient, but for his heart. "Come on, Ethan, stay with me," he whispered through clenched teeth, his hands pressing on his son's chest, desperate to call him back from where he was slipping. When the monitor gave one long, flat tone, Samuel's world fractured. He dropped his gloves, staggered backward, and the words he had spoken for strangers hundreds of times refused to leave his lips. Someone else said it for him. Time of death, 8:42 p.m. He turned away, unable to face his wife when she arrived. Emily's scream echoed through the corridor, raw and haunting, breaking through every layer of composure he had left. He sat on the cold hospital floor that night, head buried in his arms, surrounded by the hum of machines that could save others, but not the one he loved most. For days, Samuel did not speak. He didn't go home. He couldn't bear to walk through the front door and see Ethan's soccer shoes by the mat or his drawing still taped to the refrigerator. He stayed at the hospital, wandering empty hallways after midnight, haunted by the phantom sound of his son's laughter. Emily sat beside him when she could, holding his hand as he stared at nothing. She prayed aloud, whispering into the silence words he didn't believe could change anything. He envied her faith, even as he resented it. Science had been his sanctuary. Now it felt like a cage. He had dedicated his life to understanding the body, yet he could not understand why God had taken his child at the funeral. The sky was gray and heavy. Rain fell like tears from heaven. Samuel stood in silence as the small white casket was lowered into the earth. The priest's voice blurred into the wind. "He gives and he takes away." Samuel clenched his fists. Then he's taken too much, he thought. When everyone else had left, he stayed by the grave, the wet soil dark against his shoes. "If you're real," he whispered to the empty sky, "where were you?" His voice broke, swallowed by the wind. Weeks passed like smoke. Samuel returned to work because he didn't know how to exist anywhere else. But everything felt hollow. The sterile smell of the operating room reminded him of that night. The sound of the heart monitor became unbearable. Every patient's pulse reminded him of Ethan's that had stopped under his own hands. During one surgery, his trembling fingers nearly cost a life. He stepped out afterward, locked himself in the supply room, and collapsed to the floor. His breath came in gasps. He pressed his hands to his face, the smell of antiseptic filling his lungs. "God, if you're there," he cried, "why didn't you help me? Why didn't you help him?" When he finally opened his eyes, they fell on a small, worn Bible left on a shelf. He picked it up with shaking hands, not even sure why. It fell open to Psalm 34. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. He read it again and again. The words didn't erase his pain, but they cracked something open in him, a small space for hope. That night, he took the Bible home. Ethan's room was untouched, his bed still messy, his science fair project half finished, his favorite book lying open on the desk. Samuel sat on the floor and began to read. The verses were like whispers in the dark. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He didn't know how to pray, but he closed his eyes and whispered, "If you can hear me, I can't do this anymore." Emily found him there at dawn, tears streaming down his face. She didn't speak. She just knelt beside him and held his hand. "You don't have to understand it, Sam," she whispered. "You just have to let it in." That Sunday, for the first time in over 20 years, he went to church with her. The sunlight poured through the stained glass, bathing the room in color. He sat in the back, arms folded, skeptical and raw. The pastor's words about a father who gave his only son pierced through him. He imagined God watching his son suffer, unable to intervene. The thought shattered him. He bowed his head, tears falling freely for the first time in months. "I can't fix this," he whispered, "but maybe you can fix me." Healing did not come overnight. Some nights he still woke to the echo of tires screeching. Sometimes he screamed Ethan's name into the dark. But slowly, something shifted. Prayer became breath. The Bible became anchor. He began to notice small mercies, sunlight through a window, a stranger's kindness, a child's laughter in the hallway. He volunteered at the children's ward, telling stories, fixing broken toys, sitting with parents who couldn't stop crying. One evening, he sat by a little boy waiting for a heart transplant. The boy smiled up at him and said, "My mom says Jesus gives new hearts." Samuel smiled through tears. "Yes, he does. In more ways than one." Months later, he met a mother who had lost her child in an accident. She was angry, trembling, blaming God for everything. Samuel listened without interruption, his heart heavy with understanding. When she finished, he said softly, "I don't have the answers, but I know that God doesn't waste pain. What you feel now, He can turn it into compassion for someone else one day." She stared at him through tears and whispered, "Do you really believe that?" He nodded. "I do, because He's doing it with me." Years passed. Samuel founded the Ethan Light Foundation, a charity that supported grieving families. The first family he helped was a couple who had lost their daughter to leukemia. He visited them often, listening more than speaking. Each time he left, he felt that Ethan's light flickered a little brighter through him. Every year on Ethan's birthday, he visited the hospital chapel, lit a candle, and sat in silence. Sometimes he spoke aloud to his son, telling him about the lives they had touched. "You're still saving people, buddy," he'd whisper. And in the quiet hum of the candlelight, he almost felt a presence. A warmth wrapping around his tired heart. Dr. Samuel Hayes, the man who once believed he could outsmart death, now knew that healing wasn't about defeating it, it was about finding meaning beyond it. He had found peace, not because the pain was gone, but because he had found someone to carry it with him. If you are listening to this, and you're grieving, if you've lost someone so dear you can barely breathe, know this, your story isn't over. God is not done with you. The same hands that let go of what you love can still hold on to hope. Every story here is a light for someone in the dark. Be part of the light. Like, share, and subscribe to Faith Light Stories. And if this story touched your heart, leave a comment below. Tell us who you're remembering tonight, and let your story remind someone else that faith still heals.